3 Olympic gold medals, a devastating injury, and now the most unexpected comeback strategy in track and field history. Instead of playing it safe on the traditional European circuit after a lost 2025 season, Gabby Thomas is doing something no American sprint star has ever attempted. She is currently flying 8,200 miles to launch a grueling high-altitude tour across Ethiopia, Kenya, and Botswana, all in just 9 days. This isn't just a comeback. It's a radical high-stakes gamble that could completely rewrite the playbook of modern sprinting. And to understand just how wild this African tour really is, you have to look at the unwritten rulebook she's tearing up. For most elite American sprinters, the competition calendar is completely predictable. You start domestically, build through the Diamond League circuit in Europe, and peak for the major championships. It's a formula that's worked for decades. Athletes like Carl Lewis, Michael Johnson, and Allison Felix all followed variations of this exact same blueprint. Thomas appeared to be no different. After her breakthrough at the Paris Olympics, where she captured 3 gold medals including the prestigious 200-meter individual title, she was positioned perfectly for a traditional 2026 campaign. Sponsors were lining up, appearance fees were climbing, and everyone expected her to follow the usual American sprinting playbook. Then came the Achilles injury that derailed her 2025 season. Thomas was forced to withdraw from the World Athletics Championships in Tokyo, missing what should have been her first major competition as Olympic champion. The injury had been nagging her since May, but worsened during the crucial summer months, forcing her and her team to prioritize long-term health over immediate glory. For most athletes, missing a major championship would mean playing it safe the following year, sticking to familiar territory and proven competition formats. The logical approach would be to ease back into competition on home soil, gradually building confidence before venturing into more challenging environments. But Thomas had other plans, and they're unlike anything we've seen from an American sprint star. On April 7th, Thomas posted a simple message on her social media that sent shockwaves through the athletics community. April 18th, Addis Ababa Grand Prix, Ethiopia. April 24th, Kip Keino Classic, Kenya. April 26th, Botswana Golden Grand Prix. See you there. 3 competitions, 3 different countries, all in Africa, all within 9 days. To understand why this is so unprecedented, you need to understand what elite sprinting schedules typically look like. American sprinters, especially those at Thomas's level, usually compete in a carefully orchestrated sequence of meets designed to minimize travel stress and maximize performance windows. The idea of crossing multiple time zones, dealing with varying altitudes, and adapting to completely different competitive environments in rapid succession goes against everything modern sports science tells us about peak performance. But here's where it gets really interesting. Thomas isn't just going to Africa for appearance fees or to fulfill sponsor obligations. She's going there to race at altitude, in conditions that will challenge her body in ways that traditional Diamond League competitions never could. The Addis Ababa Grand Prix takes place at over 7,500 feet above sea level. The Kip Keino Classic in Nairobi sits at 5,500 feet. For a sprinter whose events last between 10 and 22 seconds, altitude shouldn't theoretically matter much. But Thomas is betting that the physiological adaptations and mental challenges of competing in these environments will give her an edge that no amount of traditional training can provide. And she's already proven that unconventional approaches can work. At the Texas Relays, her 2026 season opener, Thomas didn't just ease back into competition. Despite cold and wet conditions that would normally slow time significantly, she blazed to an 11.00 in the 100 meters, tying her personal best. For context, that time would have won the NCAA championships in most years and ranks among the top performances globally for 2026. The performance sent a clear message that Thomas isn't just healthy, she's evolved, but the African Tour represents something much bigger than just one athlete's comeback strategy. Thomas is essentially conducting a real-time experiment in how modern sprinting careers can be structured. Instead of following the traditional European circuit that has defined elite athletics for generations, she's pioneering what could become known as the Global South approach to competition. Consider the financial implications alone. Appearance fees for top American athletes at African competitions have traditionally been lower than their European counterparts. But Thomas's presence is likely to drive up prize money, television viewership, and sponsor interest across the entire continent. She's not just competing in these meets, she's elevating them. The timing of her African debut couldn't be more strategic. Track and field is experiencing a renaissance in Africa, with countries like Kenya, Ethiopia, and South Africa investing heavily in world-class facilities in major competitions. The Continental Tour has elevated the profile of African meets, and athletes are starting to recognize that the competition level rivals anything available in Europe or North America. Thomas's decision to embrace this shift positions her at the forefront of what could be athletics' next major evolution. While other American stars continue to chase the traditional Diamond League circuit, Thomas is building relationships and establishing herself in markets that represent the future of the sport. But there's a deeper strategy at play here. Thomas has been vocal about her desire to compete more frequently in the 100 meters and 400 meters this season. The African meets give her the perfect opportunity to experiment with different events and race tactics without the intense scrutiny and pressure that comes with Diamond League competition. At Addis Ababa, she could test her 400-meter speed. At Nairobi, she could fine-tune her 100-meter technique. At Gaborone, she could put together the kind of 200-meter performance that establishes her as the clear favorite heading into the year's major championships. Each meet becomes a laboratory for different aspects of her preparation. The psychological benefits might be even more significant. After missing the World Championships due to injury, Thomas needs to rebuild her confidence on the global stage. The supportive, enthusiastic crowds at African meets provide an ideal environment for that rebuilding process. Instead of facing the cynical European crowds who have seen every American sprinting promise come and go, she'll be competing in front of fans who genuinely celebrate athletic excellence. And then there's the training benefit that nobody is talking about. The travel itself, the altitude exposure, the rapid adaptation to different environments all serve as a form of stress inoculation that could pay dividends when Thomas faces pressure situations later in the season. While her competitors are managing carefully controlled training environments, Thomas is forcing her body and mind to adapt to constant change. The ripple effects of Thomas's decision are already being felt throughout the sprinting community. Other American stars are quietly exploring African competition opportunities. Agents are fielding calls about appearance fees and logistics for meets that were previously considered minor stops on the global circuit. Sponsors are reevaluating their activation strategies to include African markets that suddenly seem much more attractive. But perhaps the most significant impact will be on the next generation of sprinters. Young athletes watching Thomas blaze this new trail are seeing that there are multiple pathways to success in professional track and field. The old model of European dominance and American domestic focus is being challenged by an athlete who's willing to think globally from the start of her career.